All right, let's dive into something that's been making headlines recently. A 90-second power outage that caused absolute chaos for rail commuters. Sounds crazy, right? But here's the thing, it's not just about the 90 seconds. It's about what those 90 seconds reveal about our infrastructure, our preparedness, and frankly, our priorities. So, let's break this down. First off, what happened? A power failure hit Network Rail's operations center in Manchester. Now, Network Rail is the backbone of Britain's railway system. They manage tracks, signals, stations, the whole shebang. So when their Manchester Centre, which controls a huge chunk of the northwest, went dark, it was like pulling the plug on the entire region's rail network. And here's where it gets interesting. They had a backup power supply, but it didn't kick in fast enough. Personally, I think this is where the story stops being about a minor technical glitch and starts being about systemic issues. If a backup system fails in a critical infrastructure hub, what does that say about our resilience? Are we cutting corners somewhere? Or is it just a one-off mistake? I'm leaning toward the former, especially when you consider the broader context. What makes this really interesting is the ripple effect. Trains had to stop because signaling systems, basically the traffic lights of the railway, went down. And once those systems are disrupted, it's not like flipping a switch to turn them back on. They need to be rebooted, and in this case, some parts were damaged, requiring replacements. Now think about the scale of this. Trains were out of position, crews were stranded, and the entire network was thrown into disarray. It's like dominoes, one falls, and the whole chain collapses. And this raises a deeper question. How fragile is our infrastructure if a 90-second outage can cause days of disruption? In my opinion, this incident is a symptom of larger problems. Network Rail has been under immense pressure lately, funding cuts, job reductions, and rising costs due to inflation and extreme weather. Gareth Dennis, a rail engineer, pointed out something crucial. Are their staff suitably resourced? Are there enough people to ensure that critical checks are happening? I mean, if you're constantly cutting budgets and staff, something's got to give. And in this case, it was the backup power system. What this really suggests is that we're not investing enough in maintaining and future-proofing our infrastructure. We're playing catch-up, and it's commuters who pay the price. Now, let's zoom out for a second. The government's rail policy is in flux. They're planning to nationalize passenger rail operators and create a new organization called Great British Railways. Network Rail is expected to be abolished as a separate entity. Sounds like a big shakeup, right? But here's the catch. All of this is happening against a backdrop of squeezed government budgets. The latest funding settlement for Network Rail is £44.1 billion for 2024 to 2029, which is a £3 billion increase. But when you factor in inflation and the rising costs of extreme weather events, that extra money doesn't go as far as it used to. Former CEO Andrew Haynes said it perfectly. The funding needs to go further than ever before. But is it enough?
Personally, I'm skeptical.
If we're already seeing failures like this, what's going to happen when the next big challenge comes along? What many people don't realize is that this isn't just about trains being late. It's about trust. Commuters have already been through the ringer with strikes, rising ticket prices, and poor performance. This incident isn't going to inspire confidence. If you take a step back and think about it, the rail network is a reflection of our society's priorities. Are we prioritizing reliability and safety, or are we cutting corners to save money? I think the answer is pretty clear. So where do we go from here? Network Rail has apologized and launched an investigation, which is a start. They're also working on building additional resilience into their signaling systems. But apologies and band-aid fixes aren't enough. We need a fundamental rethink of how we fund and manage our infrastructure. This incident should be a wake-up call, not just for Network Rail, but for policymakers and the public. Because the next time something like this happens, it might not just be a 90-second outage. It could be something far worse. What do you think? Is this a one-off incident or a sign of deeper issues? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this analysis interesting, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because when it comes to infrastructure, we can't afford to just sit back and watch the chaos unfold.